Let's do some drywall. Hey YouTubers, do-it-yourselfers, here's an easy project anyone can do. This is skimming out a wall. On this wall you had some kind of tiles, some sound barrier tiles or some kind of decoration on the wall. They decided to remove them. Of course, when they removed them, it ripped the drywall texture off and it left a big mess. So when you do jobs like this, you're going to have to skim them out. This same process would be if you skimmed out a wall because you want to change your texture. Skim out. I'm using a regular joint compound, thin down joint compound. And I'm just going to use a 14-inch drywall knife, a nice straight knife. And I'm just going to put on the joint compound, just skimming it out. I'm going to use all the materials in my pan, get it put on the surface. Just watch how I'm working the knife, just putting the materials on. I'm not trying to drop mud everywhere. I'm just putting enough materials on to cover the work area. Then after I get all my mud on the wall, I'm going to turn around and trowel it down. Basically skim it out. I'm not going to leave a big hump on the wall, so we're doing a tight skim. This would be the same process if you want to skim out walls in your house to get rid of the texture, to leave them smooth. This would be the same process. I don't recommend trying to skim out your whole house at once, but maybe do a wall at a time. It's really easy when you focus on one wall at a time in the drywall world. I'm feathering off the edges and just troweling it down. Just troweling it down. Feather off the edge so it blends in existing. That's a nice skim coat. This is the second day. I'm using the Hyde Radial Sander. These sanders are awesome, especially if you don't do a lot of pole sanding and you only pick up a pole sander once in a great while. This is a perfect do-it-yourselfer tool to have. Look how I have control of the sand pole. It's easy to sand. It's easy to work. This is a perfect sanding pole head for large work areas, sanding whole walls, sanding whole houses. Now I'm using the 9-inch garment that you can buy. It's an accessory. It's called a deduster. But these dedusters, you like to take the dust off the walls. But a trick I do is I dump it in some water and I strain it out, take off the extra water, and then I basically go over every square inch of the sanded area. This takes off all the dust off the wall. Most people think when you sand drywall and then you go ahead and do a second coat over drywall without taking the dust off, it'll be fine, but you're going to get air bubbles. And by taking the dust off, dedusting the walls, you get rid of air bubbles. Now I'm just doing a tight skim coat. I'm using a regular joint compound again. This time I'm going the opposite direction. The first coat I want horizontal. My second coat I'm going vertical, up and down. Basically doing this opposite direction on the next coat, you'll get rid of dips and waves that the first coat missed. So that's crossing it off, going the opposite direction. I'm just putting on a real tight skim coat. I'm almost standing the knife up, just doing a tight, thin layer. The first coat did all the heavy fill, and the second coat's just to make it perfect. And I take my work, I always take the work past your first coat. Your second coat always goes past your first coat. I'm just taking off the extra mud. I don't need a lot of mud on here. It's just a tight skim coat to fill in all the dips and the waves and then make the thing perfect. This will be the same process to skim out a wall, skim out rooms. Now it's been about 10 minutes. The mud's set up enough where I can do a skip trowel. Certain textures you have to let it dry overnight, but with this hand texture called a skip trowel, I can turn around and skip trowel right over it. Your project might not call for this kind of texture. This texture is just in certain homes. I'm located in Arizona, so the Phoenix area. Most of the newer homes out here, 10, 20, even 30 years old, has this skip trowel. It's a modern texture. It's a good texture, easy texture to match. So I like doing skip trowels because you see how easy it is for me to do. And I'm using the same 14-inch knife. You can, if you're not comfortable with the 14-inch knife, you can use a 6-inch knife, 10-inch knife, 12-inch knife. But this 14-inch knife covers some ground. They also have bigger texture knives, 18-inch, 20-inch, 22-inch. But this 14-inch is doing the job here. And I'm just using a 14-inch Hyde drywall knife. If you don't have a skip trowel, the first coat and second coat process is the same on any job, no matter what the cosmetic texture is. Most jobs are smooth. So if this was a smooth texture, my third coat would just be a third skim out. If this was a spray knockdown, then it'd be a spray knockdown. The texture is just cosmetic, and the texture does not hide imperfections. They think it does. You might get away with hiding some of them, but basically your second coat, if you turn around and paint it, if it looks great, then it's ready for texture. Now I'm just troweling it down. We go each way, so it's troweling it down. You always want to trowel down skip trowels so it's not real rough and heavy. And that's pretty much it. That was a quick job. It was a 2-trip job, but it's pretty simple. You just have to let this dry overnight and it'll be ready for primer and paint the next day. Awesome. Brand new wall.